So I'm pleased to be joined by Daryl Carter once again and Steven Dowler once again. So we did a preview earlier in the week before the 5-day declarations. Well, I did one with Jamie and with Alan. But now the declarations are out, we're all too excited to sit back and not talk about horse racing. So we're going to quickly bang out a preview. I say quickly, we always don't do it quickly, but we'll try. Cover the graded racing on both days. And then we'll go over a little bit of the handicaps and maybe a little bit of Sandown. So I'll start off with you, Daryl. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Dave. This, like I say, this tie and shirt is not for you. It's for other bits and pieces of filming. So I might look a bit silly, but has to be done. Really busy, but yeah, good to be back on, mate. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. And you are busy. You were at Wincanton yesterday. You're doing stuff for odds checker, stuff for racing tips, just all over the shop, isn't you? And someone tells me you're on a promise tonight, so we can't hold you on the phone for too long. That's why
about that now. After this.
And Stephen, how are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thanks, mate. To you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. And we've managed to pair up as well with Colossus. So we've set up a sort of super syndicate where mine and your choices have gone in together. The syndicate would have been launched about now, I think, but I'll put a link up to that so people can buy in, share on that. I reckon we've got a pretty good shout on that tomorrow. And we've also stuck up a place one. So maybe as we go through, I'll just highlight again the horses we've got, just so you can see how easy we're going to make it. But without further ado, it is the Dublin Racing Festival, and this year's one is, well, I don't mean to be rude about last year, but it's 10 times better than last year. The ground played havoc with the entries. This just looks proper class racing. So without further ado, we're going to bang on straight into the first race. The 2 mile 6, Nathaniel, Lacey and Partner Solicitors. So previous one into this, I can't remember how many years ago it was, maybe 3 or 4. It used to be over 2.5 miles, so the distance has changed a little bit. But Colin Maffire won this last year. No, was it? Yeah, Commander of Fleet, wasn't it?
Commander of Fleet.
That's it. And then he went on and came second at the Cheltenham Festival. So it can be like a good little pointer going in there. Gigginstown have got a few in here again. I've already done my write-ups, put them on the page to say what I think of all the horses. So I will obviously still put input in here. But Stephen, are you all right to go first on this one, mate? Let us know what you think.
Yes, no problem at all.
So what do you fancy?
There's a couple I fancy in this race. There's Longhouse Poet. He was twice behind Alexia Dene. But there's excuses for both runs, I'd say. He's given away hurdles experience the first time they met. And then he was third last time when Alexia Dene was second, over 2 mile 4 furlong. He closed rapidly on the runner-up at the back end of the contest to suggest this extra 2 furlongs will suit. And I can really see him reversing the form. And my second one is Latest Exhibition. I know Andy Defray's well regarded by connections, and I thought it was a really good effort to get the better of him, even if the runner-up didn't appreciate the step up in trip. Brian Cooper's a really good jockey booking. I think there's much more improvement to come, and I think he's the one to beat in the race.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I quite like Paul Nolan's horse. It's nice when he gets a good horse again, and I do think the further he goes up in trip, the better. And yeah, you're right to touch on about Brian Cooper, because back in the good old days, he was Gigginstown's main man. It's all sort of fallen by the wayside, but he does know how to ride a horse. I wouldn't be his biggest fan, but, you know, he's got a chance. The other thing that's interesting with the jockey bookings is Longhouse Poet. I know a few people quite like him. Jamie Codd's on board. That's never, for me, never going to be a positive in a hurdle race. He has won hurdle races, but I backed him on a horse. I think it was another one of Martin Brazil's. He rode it absolute trash. Classic Jamie Codd. Let's wait up the back, leaving it too long. And he balls up a little bit. So that would be a slight negative for Longhouse Poet on my perspective. But I do think, like you're saying with Alexia Dene, there's excuses. And I think the step up in trip probably would suit him. Daryl, what do you make of it?
I think this is a trappy little heat, really. I think without sort of, you know, Envoy Allen in there, you are sort of looking for the second best, really. I don't think there's a lot that separates these lot, to be honest with you. I think the Latest Exhibition, who's now been backed into favourite, is the right favourite. Fury Road, I couldn't believe he was priced up as short as he was for this. He's had 3 runs. All right, he's a guaranteed stayer, the only guaranteed stayer in the field. That's fair enough. But his 3 runs, you know, he's gone off at 8 to 11, 1 to 25, and even money favourite. And I thought at Limerick the last day, I thought he struggled a little bit. I thought when he clipped the last hurdle, he was travelling really smoothly, but when he clipped the last hurdle, I think he sort of undone himself a little bit, and he wasn't travelling quite as well as you know, he'd like you to have thought. I just think that there's form lines going through here, back to the point-to-point days through Fiddler on the Roof and whatnot. Obviously, these horses have come on and improved a great deal since then. But even on Racing Post ratings and top speed figures, Fury Road's not as clean as the market thought it would be. I never watched Alexi Dane and thought that horse needs to step up and trip. That wasn't ever my opinion of the horse. I felt he's held Longhouse Poet twice. I know this is a step up and trip, and any amount of them could improve for that step up and trip. I'm not entirely sure either of those two are going to. I think Latest Exhibition is definitely the worthy favourite. I think the run. Everyone was saying how bad the run Andy Dufresne was when he got beat. That just might turn out to be actually a decent performance. Yeah, and Latest Exhibition might actually turn out to be quite a useful horse. Now Andy Dufresne went out and dropped back over 2 miles next time and boosted the form, if you like. But I thought Latest Exhibition was comfortable enough that day in beating him. I think he's the worthy favourite. I'd probably just because I think something needs to improve to win this, I'd probably take a chance on the 12-1 shot Assemble for Joseph O'Brien. The form of his win at Limerick, where he was a bit laboured when he won, is working out quite well. The third Port Stanley has come out and made a mistake at the last and would have won a 20-runner maiden hurdle. Next time, he was well beaten there. There's a few other bits and pieces in there that suggest he's improving, and this step up and trip again for him. He improved for the step up to 2.5. I think he's going to improve for another couple of furlongs as well. I just think a 12-1 is the sort of race where they're so tightly bunched that you might as well take a chance at a bit of a price. So Assemble would be my selection in here.
Yeah, fair enough. So there's only two. We're not mentioning an aircraft carrier, although I just have. Confident Way mentioned Gigginstown. He's a big old horse. He looks like quite a nice type. He's another one that I don't think screaming out for a step up in trip, but I guess it's a big chasing type. They like to try him in these races. Home by the Lees form actually looks pretty good. Reads quite well. He shouldn't, in my mind, really be like a 20-1 poke in a race like this. I think he'll have more behind him than he'll have in front. But I do feel like maybe he's one that might be eye-catching when he gets a mark and he goes in a handicap, but he's probably a bit overpriced. I do quite like Fury Road. I agree with what you said the last day. The funny thing about that is if he hadn't clipped the last, he would have just won under a double handful and he'd probably be a 6-4 poke in it. So it was probably good that we saw his true colours, that he may not, like he sort of flapped a little bit, didn't he? But I reckon it might have been the ground as well that did him. But it's a fascinating heat. It's not one to get too far stuck into. And we've pretty much made a bit of a case for most of the field. So good luck with that one. We will move on to the easiest race of the day on Saturday. I can't even believe this is a discussion. So I'm quite happy to tell you guys who wins the Dublin Chase. In a word, Min.
Why? Come on.
He's won it the last twice. He looked good on his season reappearance this year. I just think there's so many negatives about the other horses. Chacun Poursoir's still got to prove it. He did travel really well the last day, like the best horse, and then didn't particularly find. So you'd like to think he'll step up on that, but he has got to step up to be beating Min. A Plutard is better at 2.5. Just got the better of Chacun Poursoir, who supposedly is going to be coming on for the run. Silas Emery's the biggest danger, I think. I think he's an underrated horse. And I do actually think, although he's got loads of form on soft and really bad ground, I think once the ground gets a bit quick, like a bit better for him, I think that will suit. Duke de Geneva is just any price. Ordinary Well can't win it. Castlebrave Paddy can't win it. Or New is just a nutter, so who knows what he'll do. I just think Min's like proper solid, and I can't believe he's 5-2 for this. Won it the last twice, all those bits and pieces. I know Paul Townend picked Chacun Poursoir, but I reckon more than anything there, Paul Townend's done that because he thinks Robbie Power rode him at Punchestown, we let that one slip away. He doesn't want to let it happen again because if Chacun Poursoir does go and win it, then Paul Townend will probably be worried that he'll lose them out in the champion chase. I just think Min, if he was an even money poker here, I'd be looking to oppose him. The fact that you can still get 5-2, 11-4 on him is ludicrous. And he'll win this and then he'll go and win the Ryanair. So they're completed it. So what's your counter to that, Daryl?
I haven't actually really got a counter. I couldn't actually agree more. But it just worries me that a lot of other people think the same about Min, which would be a concern. Whenever, like I always say, when everyone thinks, when everyone agrees on a horse, it's never normally a good sign. Yeah, I do like Min. I actually think Min's better over a bit further nowadays. Form figures over 2 miles, 2, 5, 1, 4, 2, and then you're going back to the 1, 1, 1. But He's got a great record here at Leopardstown. He loves it here. I suspect that they're pricing this up on the basis of improvement. So they're expecting Chacun Pour Soi to come on a ton for the run and a Plutard, to have more to offer. I agree with a Plutard. I think he should be in the right now. I think that's his trip. Chacun Pour Soi, the race where a Plutard beat Chacun Pour Soi, I was just slightly worried about how close Ordinary World finished. Now, it was 10 lengths, but if you watch the race back, it wasn't, half a furlong, 100 yards to go. And that horse has been beaten 62 lengths by Underso, 34 lengths by Altior, 6 lengths by Min, 15 lengths by Simply Ned, 24 lengths by Underso, and then 9 lengths by Min.
He's a good yardstick, isn't he?
Back to this, and he was beaten 10 lengths, but it wasn't quite the 10 lengths like a 10 lengths that Underso would have beat him at. You know what I mean? It was. I'm just worried about that form. And I know Willie's needed the run and whatnot. It's just, Willie Mullins doesn't have as many winners at Leopardstown as everyone thinks either. 26 winners from his last 295 runners at Leopardstown.
Yeah.
It's not a massive amount considering how many runners he runs it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know about Chacun Pour Soi. Was Deathly Dessous, I think Deathly Dessous is a different horse than he was last year. I think that form from last year that everyone's pinning the hopes on just might be a bit exaggerated. That's all.
Yeah, and what about Silas Emery? You not a fan of him?
I am a fan of him. He's rapidly improving. I don't know where I stand with him. I can't warm to him. And I've got absolutely no reason why I can't warm to him either.
That's fair enough, mate. I think if he'd have got to Cheltenham, I'm pretty sure we'd be talking about him as the Arkle winner of last year. We know how pish that looks, but yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? So we waffled about it. Stephen, what do you think of this, mate? I had a little look at your write-up earlier, which was good. Good read, to be fair. What was it you fancied in here?
I fancy Min. Chacun Pour Soi, if he's going to win the champion chase, he's got to be winning this impressively, to be honest.
Yep.
I think he will reverse the form with a Plutard. I'm expecting a completely different performance from him from the last day. But with Min, he's won the race for the last 2 years. He's probably better over further, but I just can't see how Min doesn't finish at least second in this race. He looks spot on to run a really big race. He's probably, I'd say out of all of them, he's probably the one who's definitely going to run his race. And Robbie Perry's solid enough jockey, and I think, Min for me.
Yeah. Is that not the worry, though? Is that not the worry that everyone thinks Min should win this race? Yet he's 11-4, 3-1 in places. That's a slight concern, isn't it?
I do know what you mean, but I think that's why everyone's getting excited, don't they? People like taking on a favourite, all that sort of stuff. If the prices were the other way around, you'd end up having just as many people saying they fancy Chacun Pour Soi. It's just, I just think Min, he's just too big a price, isn't he? He's one of them, and we'll come on to it later. You'll get certain fun somewhere. You just look at the price, and although when it's too good to be true, it normally is. The price just looks too big. You almost like you can't leave it. But it looks a competitive enough race, I think, considering we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. But Min's the proven one, and I think we're all in agreement that a Plutard will probably finish behind Chacun Pour Soi, or might well do, probably better over further. Do you think Silas is interesting? But that's the way the betting is, isn't it? It's those front four. The market's got in between them, and nothing else has got a chance, which is good news if you do get involved in the Colossus Bets, because we've got mob-handed in here. I don't think we've got a Plutard, but I think we've got Chacun Pour Soi, Min, and Silas. We went quite heavy-handed in the first race, but we've got 3 in there. So we're through the first couple of legs. And then it's on to, now you need to play nicely in this one, gentlemen. It's on to the Arkle Novices Chase. This is just a beautiful race. Like year in, year out, it's just a class. Excited for these novice chasers going in there. This year's probably a more exciting renewal than ever, because by this point you get the likes of horses like Footpad that might come in and all the questions have been answered. But one horse that does keep answering all the questions and doesn't it, but still keeps getting questioned is the favourite for this race, the rightful favourite, I suppose. It's one that we know that Daryl Carter quite likes. And I imagine when we did the recording on Monday that unfortunately you were too busy to make, I bet at some point you were sat there thinking, oh, God, I want to say some stuff about it. And further to it, we did the poll on the Facebook page. and more people thought Fakir Doudrey would win the Notebook. So you must be absolutely fuming there. So to start off with, we're going to go to you, Stephen. You can wait a bit longer, Daryl.
Okay.
Give my WKD.
That's it. Yeah, get your West Kerry diesel down here. All right, Stephen.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned this when we did the architect tips thing before. You quite like Bapalm. Obviously, this is as competitive an Arkle chase as you're probably going to get. What do you think of him now, and then probably this race?
To be honest, I'd probably say he's got a much better chance at Cheltenham. I think he's better suited to Cheltenham, but I do like Fakir Doudrey as well. I know he's been behind Notebook last time and he's worse off at the weights, but there's just something telling me that I think they'll just try more positive tactics with him this time. And to be honest, I don't think Mark Walsh was too aggressive on him towards the finish. It looked like he'd probably save him for next time. I think they'll definitely try the different tactics with him. I can see the form being reversed. I might be wrong, but that's just what I think.
Yeah. I feel like with Notebook, it's because of the fact that he wasn't sexy at the beginning of the year. I feel like he's been a bit played down on his performances this year. I don't think that Fakir Doudrey will reverse the form with him. I think there was enough excuses the last day that it'll be the same thing this time. It might be excuses. I worry about when we talk about horses maybe having to change their tactics or have to go out and do something different to try and go and win a race. But I do still get the fact that they were close enough. One horse that I do need to bring in, because there's no way in the world Daryl's going to mention him, is Melon. So I know, but we're talking about horses the beginning of the year that you're thinking who could make an Arkle winner. The only horse
I know it.
He's the only horse that's still there or thereabouts that we were talking about at the beginning of the season. I like Melon. There was all this talk about stepping him up in trip. They did it over hurdles. It's a load of bollocks. He's a 2-miler. He's a 2-mile chaser. They shouldn't have ever sent him to the champion hurdle. He should have gone straight over fences 2 years back. But obviously, he got 2 champion hurdle seconds, so well done them. He is obviously better at Cheltenham. He doesn't win very often. I do think he's quite good. The interesting thing, and I like a little conspiracy theory when it comes to horse racing, like I said about Layla when it rains, which worked. Melon won at this track, and then they gelded him. Why would he want to come back here? He must be furious. What else are they going to chop off this time? That's what he's thinking when he gets to the course. And I know it sounds nuts, but horses, they have this. They have falls, things that happen at tracks. I reckon he just hates the fucking track because he thinks he's going to lose another bollock.
Yeah, and since then he's finished 5th, 4th, and he won, but he won horribly, didn't he?
I think we can all agree he's not a bad horse given the fact that he's had those couple of places in Champion Hurdle. He's too short to be backing at this in 6-1, and I do like him. He's just one of those horses that winds you up because he'll get beat in this, and I'll still give him another chance at Cheltenham. I still think he's got a proper chance in the Arkle at Cheltenham. I just want him to run well enough in this so that Willie Mullins doesn't decide to stick him up in trip. But they've got so many options for the Marsh. I'm sure Melon will come there. And I think Melon will finish in front of all the other Willie Mullins horses. The only horse he probably won't finish in front of is Daryl Carter.
Notebook.
Correct. Go on then.
Whoever wins this race will win the Arkle at Cheltenham. I'll promise you that now. The British have got nothing to offer over 2 miles in this division. You're about to see that when Lorena goes and spanks them tomorrow. They're all stepping up in trip because they've just got nothing. The Wayward Ladder show you how poor the British are this year. Fakir Doudrey will not get a soft lead out in front. Everyone thinks that, reverse attack. Sorry, Arkle winners can win. You know what I mean? They don't need. If a horse needs to go from the front, he needs to have a soft lead. He needs to be left alone. That's not an Arkle winner. And I'm so glad that everybody thinks that Fakir Doudrey is going to turn the form around with Notebook, because that means it ain't going to happen. That's what that means. Because like I say, if everyone thinks it ain't happening, and that is the honest truth. He's £2 worse off with Notebook here. He's going to be another £5 worse off with him in the Arkle. Cashback is already held on Notebook's poor hurdle form by 10 lengths. Bapalm is completely tripless. He jumped well the last day, but 4 of the fences were removed. So he only jumped 9 of the 13 there anyway. 6 out of the last 10 Arkle winners have been unbeaten in that season. 9 or 10 out of 10 Arkle winners. 10, I think it's 10 actually. Let me just check this. 10 out of 10 Arkle winners have won last time out. So whoever does not win this is not winning an Arkle. That is a fact. Bapome, you have to go all the way back to 2017 to find his last win over 2 miles, right? It's ridiculous. That was a 4-year-old Grade 1. Go back and look at that form. Is there any horse in that 4-year-old hurdle that is weighted within 10 pounds of Notebook? No, there ain't. Since then, he hasn't won, apart from his last start at Nace, where he went to the front and he tried to take the field along at an absolute dawdle until his closest market rival went past him, made all the running, and then was found stiff after the race, or lame. So you ain't having that. Go back through that run at Nace. He hasn't beaten anything weighted within 15 pounds of Notebook. You're having a laugh if you think the tripless Notebook, who was 4th in the Stayers last year, is going to go anywhere near this absolute machine that is Notebook, who can be as versatile as it comes. He can sit off the pace. I'll tell you what happened here. Cashback will go from the front. Facking it down to try and take him on because the connection suggests that he needs to go from the front. He needs to go. It's all going to be set up for the run. Mellon won't run well here. He hits too many fences. He gets in too close to his fences. And gallant John Joe will probably turn the form around with that idiot. And that's it. It's won. It's done and won. I'm telling you. Mellon then goes up to the Marsh chase. Facking Dowdies will go for the Marsh. Back him at 6-1. Don't back Facking the Dowdies here. Back him at 6-1 for the Marsh.
He's not running no bet for that, is he? Yeah, and I think Facking Dowdies should end up in the Marsh. I think he might be better at the trip, but and they get a bit of weight at Cheltenham as well in the Marsh. The Arkle they don't. The Marsh they get a little bit. You go to the RSA they get some more. Do you feel better, Daryl, for getting that out?
Oh, it's been winding me up. It's been winding me up. I could sit here and talk to you hours and hours about this. I know. But look, actually, no. Let me carry on a little bit. Let me carry on. Right, his hurdle form, right? Everyone crabs his hurdle form because he's weighted 1 for it. He only had 6 runs over hurdles. Only 3 of those were over 2 miles. He beat Janadil, who's unbeaten now. I can't remember the rest because I'm getting all high rate. But, you know, he finished in the first 2 those 3 times, right? He's a massive horse. Fences have only benefited him. I'm telling you now, he wins this, he wins the Arkle. Done and dusted. Stop trying to take him on. He is the best horse in the race. He's just one that people are going to always try and take on anyway, regardless.
Yeah. And the best thing about it is it's not even just Notebook and Fakir Doodaree, but they've thrown Bapalm in the mix as well to really piss you off, haven't they?
Wow, that just wound me up. And then when I see that Stephen liked him, I thought, don't do it.
you know what will happen? Well, you don't know, but if it happens, if Bapalm then goes and wins this, like you said, he'll go and win the Arkle and it all goes tits up. But I'm with you. I don't see Bapalm as a 2-miler. We could be wrong. There's obviously vibes that have come out of Willie Mullins, why people are liking him, all those bits and pieces. The fact that they'll be going quick and all those bits and pieces will probably suit him a little bit. But in a clean run race, I think Notebook should be winning this. It is going to be a proper class race, I think. It'll be interesting to see the margins, how they finish, because they are, bar the bottom 2, they are all useful animals. I know we're slagging them off for the Arkle, like the Arkle proper, but they're all comfortably 150s horses.
That's what I'll say. Look, this is more of a tougher race than what the Arkle will be at Cheltenham. So, you know, whoever does, whether I'm right or wrong about Notebook, regardless, I think whoever does win this race will go on and win the Arkle. I don't think there's anything else better out there that's not in this race, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with you. So in this race for the Colossus Bets, you've seen how competitive we think it is. You've seen there's a bit of a difference of opinions in there. We've got 4 in this leg, just to bang ourselves through. We have got Notebook, Mellon, Fakir Doodaree, Bapalm. If Daryl was involved in the syndicate, we wouldn't have been allowed to put anything in other than Notebook, which is why he wasn't invited. But we have got some stuff to talk about with the handicap in between, but we'll just carry on with the Grade 1 stuff because it's just so much more funny to watch Daryl talk about this than it is anything else. So, Irish Champion Hurdle. The problem with this is I don't think we've got a sway of opinion here, so we're going to be very biased in here. The long and the short of it for this race for me is Do for Sunday needs the run, all that sort of stuff. I think he potentially could have been a player in it if he'd have had a bit of a run. They should have gone with the champion hurdle with him last year with the fact that it all fell apart and he might have come second there or might have had a chance of getting close to Espoir de Lamb, but they didn't. He's going to need the run. They're going to have another run with him before Cheltenham, and then he's doing all 3 spring festivals. So that's why he's the price that he is. Petit Mouchoir could be any price. He's not going to do it. Classical Dream's an absolute, I want to say a nice word, but I'm struggling to think. He's a knob is basically what he is. He was brilliant in the Supreme. He looked like he was going to be the next best thing, and he's just so disappointing in the last 2 starts. It's so far from what I've ever seen a racehorse do in terms of turnaround with how much they've visibly declined. But I do think that he's still potentially a really nice horse. So I'm happy to still give him a chance now, although I don't think he would win. I've never been on board with Sharjah, so I couldn't have him. But I think he's the price that he is because we just don't know whether Honeysuckle's going to like it back at 2 miles, whether Honeysuckle's going to like it left-handed. But if she does, and I think she probably will, she's just going to absolutely hack up. The only slight niggle I've got with her is the fact that she likes to be up with the pace. That's going to be very difficult to do in a championship race over 2 miles. That's my slight worry with her. But if it was gone to her head and I've got £1,000 to put on the race, I'd be having it on Honeysuckle. Stephen, who would you be going for?
I would be going for Honeysuckle as well. It's absolute huge day for her. I mean, she'll surely be going for the champion early if she wins this.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? She's unbeaten. She obliterated a good field in the Athens Grace Fairy House last time. I just think she's superb. The drop packing trip shouldn't pose any problem. And favourites have a really good record in the race. I mean, I think they've won 9 of the last 10 run-ins as well. I mean, there's an obvious chance that she can win this. I mean, I think a main danger would be Classical Dream. I think he ran a pretty nice race on his return before he blew out. And then he made that mistake the last day, which completely put a line through that run. I mean, he's a 3-time Grade 1 winner. I can't forget that either. I think he'd have had some more hardcore scoring as well since the last day. I think if there's anybody that's going to beat Honeysuckle, it'll be Classical Dream. So, and I can't have Sharjah. I mean, the ground's gone against, well, ish, but
that's it. Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Sharjah.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this particular panel we've got this evening. I don't know what Daryl's full opinions are, but I'm pretty sure I know who Daryl would like in here anyway. But Sharjah's one of them. I class him as a bit Marmitey, but I struggle to find anyone I speak to regularly that actually does really like him. Don't want to knock him because obviously I'd love to own him myself. He's a nice horse, all that sort of stuff. But considering this, that we say about a weak champion hurdle division, all that sort of stuff, this is going to be the highlight of the Irish contingent that's going to come over. If Sharjah's the best that Ireland have got to send over the champion hurdle, then Epatante has actually got a fucking chance, which would be disgusting. But we won't bring her too much into it because Daryl Carter, have you got the answer?
Not really. Look, the whole Honeysuckle thing drop. I think she's a really, really good mare. I do think she's been outstanding. I think if you want to be really harsh on her, you can really crap that the form of the Hatton's Grace because, you know, Apple's Jade's gone again. Kalatavic's running over 3 miles. Penn Hill's not been the same. You know, Bacardi's, you know, they're not the top. They're not, you know what I mean, the top class horses. But, and I just get the feeling, I really like her. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take her on. I wouldn't take her on. I've backed her at 14s for the champion hurdle. I just worry about this Lorena effect from last year. It's just a very similar thing, isn't it? Running over 2.5, drops back to 2. She looks like an out-and-out galloper as well, doesn't she? She doesn't show a massive turn of foot. I don't know, the closer it gets, the more I'm starting to get a bit concerned. This might sound mental, but how is Petite Mouchoir 16-1? And Classical Dream 4-1.
Yeah, I agree that I think Classical Dream's the wrong price. Isn't it? I think Petit Mouchoir is probably where it should be. The thing is, just the bookmakers it's for their margins, isn't it? They could easily make it 6-4 the pair Honeysuckle Sharjah. That's 80% of the book, and then make Classical Dream, Petit Mouchoir both 14-1 pokes, and they could make it reasonable. But that's the thing with Classical Dream. Again, the 2 poor performances. No one's quick enough to forget what he did in the Supreme with him being a nutter, all that sort of. And we all know if he calms himself down and decides to turn it on, he could be better than all of these.
Yeah, he could be, but you know, if you're having a bet on Classical Dream at 4-1,
what's that wrong with you?
You need to have a look at yourself a little bit, really, considering that Petit Mouchoir, you know, beat him. And then Classical Dream's gone on to run even worse after that. You know, in terms of price, I just wanted to mention it in terms of price because if he's doing Classical Dream, you cannot back him at 4-1 regardless. Sharjah, where do we start with Sharjah?
I don't think we do. Do we just leave it?
You just don't want me to hack into it. Yeah, go on. Look, I hope Honeysuckle wins because I think it'll set up a better champion hurdle than what we've got now. And we want to see the best races, don't we? So hopefully Honeysuckle wins.
And that's the thing. I'd like to see her win. The only thing I will say with her winning and going to the champion hurdle is if she wins this and she just wins it, like doesn't win it by more, I'd say more than 4 lengths, she'll go to the mares. And I think I don't want to say she's got a better chance than the mares because Benny DeG's an absolute beast. But I do think that 2.5 miles is probably her best trip. The only thing is the 2.5 miles round at Cheltenham is that bit harder to take, which is why Benny's good over 3 miles. All those bits and pieces. There's quite a few things to factor in there, but so it might not be quite as simple as her winning this. She definitely goes to the champion hurdle because Apple's Jade, when she won it last year, she won it in a canter and then went to the champion hurdle and got shown up. But I just hope that Honeysuckle wins it because I want to see another superstar.
Yeah, but that Apple's Jade thing is something to do with her and her head and Cheltenham, isn't it? She never ran a good race there, is she? So they would have to, because she'd go in as a strong favourite, wouldn't she?
Yeah, I get all that stuff, but I don't know. It does obviously depend in the manner of the performance. Then I think we all know that. I know we say that if she wins, it should go up like champion hurdle, and I probably don't even need to say it. It does depend in the manner of the victory, but I'd like to see. I could see her just grinding this out, winning half a length, just being gutsy, and saying, "What? It's the wrong trip, maybe."
Yeah, maybe.
I just think maybe she wins. So that's it. We got that one covered. There is another handicap, which would be the last leg of the Colossus pool, but for that one, we have just Bank and Honeysuckle because she wins. There's no point wasting lines or anything else. It's the 4th leg anyway, so if we've got through to that point, we'll be on a reasonable cash out. When we've got through that, there's the handicap, which we'll come back to after we've done all this other bit. But we've got a couple of selections in there where we actually think we've got a strong hand in that as well. But the Grade 2 bumper, the last race on the Saturday, Envoy Alam won this last year, and then I don't think he's done much since. Has he? Have we ever seen him since? Well, okay, maybe he's won a couple of races then. Good news, he's going straight to the Ballymore. They've officially said it, so we can just basically collect now.
Take him on now.
Well, do what you want, Daryl, but I'm on him at 10s, 12s, 14s, so I'm just literally sat waiting to cash. I'm actually already spending the winnings. That's how confident I am. But the new superstar for the bumper this year, I'm adamant, whatever wins this wins the champion bumper at Cheltenham. And again, the whole thing with Honeysuckle about the manner of it, if someone I don't care. Whatever wins this will win the champion bumper at Cheltenham. I'm adamant of it. Eric Bloodaxe was another one that you put up, Stephen, wasn't it? In your Architect Tips at a big price. I think he probably deserves to be favourite considering the 2 horses he's beat are decent, all that sort of stuff. I can see why the money's coming for Appreciate It, Willie Mullins, but obviously his bumper was over 2.5. The step back shouldn't inconvenience him, and he should be better for another run. But, Eric Bloodaxe, he's one of them. I don't know why people are sort of taking him on a bit. And wide receiver, for absolute fact, he is miles better than he showed the last day, which is what worries me a bit with Eric Bloodaxe. Maybe wide receiver just wasn't there. They had the claimer on board, all those bits and pieces. But wide receiver will run a massive race in it. As far as I'm concerned, those are the only 3 that could be in there. I don't really like this risk factor. But Stephen, seeing as you liked Eric Bloodaxe before, I'll let you have a little bit to say on this.
Yeah, I'm in his camp again here. I mean, he's grown versatile. As I mentioned before, he's won his both starts nicely, and he's going to be hard to beat. I mean, I do like to mention Lieutenant Command as well. He could be anything. He bolted up on his debut by 9 lengths, pitched into this graded company on just his 2nd start, so he's clearly well regarded by Noel Mead.
Yeah.
So if Eric Bloodaxe wins this, he could be one to chase home.
Yeah, true. The only thing with that Lieutenant Command, because I watched his bumper back and he still looks good in his own right, but I always like to look at the horses in behind. Sometimes you should ignore them. The horse that was 2nd got beaten after, which is what's put a little bit of a blot in my notebook with him. But yeah, he does look like he's a nice type. What do you think of Appreciate It? Are you a bit worried about him, especially seeing the support come now?
I am a little concerned now, yeah, to be honest. Well, I'm happy to stick with Eric Bloodaxe. He's just looked complete solid. And I think he's a massive player for the champion bumper at Cheltenham. So I think he'll win this.
Yeah, fair enough. He's only got to give a little bit away to Appreciate It. I think, Daryl Carter, I know you well enough now that from your facial expressions, you like Appreciate It.
I do like Appreciate It, yeah. I liked him at Fairy House behind Assemble. I think he's going to frank that form. I think Assemble might run well, obviously, as we mentioned in the first race earlier on. I just like the way he went about his business that day, and then he went out at Leopardstown and did it. He was very strong at the finish. It was just quite eye-catching. I don't think there'll be an issue dropping back to 2 miles at all. I just think it was race fitness, on the day, on his debut, and he was, short of a bit of room, weaving in and out. It was really eye-catching. I actually don't really like Eric Bloodaxe that much. I think he's going to improve, but I think he's going to take a lot of time. I thought wide receiver was a bigger eye-catcher in that Leopardstown race. And Eric Bloodaxe just looked, I think he benefited from being on the front end of the pace as they started to quicken off that day. And I think wide receiver was caught for a little bit flat-footed and then was staying on. So that's where I'm at with him. So I would have wide receiver to reverse that form of Eric Bloodaxe to follow home and appreciate it.
Yeah, fair enough. The interesting thing with Eric Bloodaxe as well, which hopefully a few people watched him when he's raced, he booted off the jockey on his first start on the way to post. There's a few pictures of him as well. He's a bit of a roader. He's a bit of a nutter, but you wouldn't necessarily notice it within his racing. So you see Classical Dreams a bit of a twat before he goes to post, and you can see it in his racing as well. That's what I do quite like that about Eric Bloodaxe, and I would suspect if they managed to calm that bit of energy down at the beginning, we could probably see a little bit more from him. But this is the acid test, isn't it? If only we knew the answer to this before it happened, we could get stuck in at Cheltenham. But you could see the money coming for Appreciate It before anyway. He's the shortest of the ones that we've mentioned, shortest of any of these runners for the Champion Bumper proper anyway. So it's just going to be a fascinating race. The beautiful thing with most of these they're all going to be good jumpers, aren't they? They're going to be nice hurdlers. They're going to be nice chases for the future. So it just looked a really nice race, I think.
Do you think it's worth mentioning that if you fancy any one of these runners in here, for the people that are watching and listening, I mean, if you fancy Appreciate to win this at 15-8, don't back him at 15-8. Go and back him at 9-1 for the Champion Bumper.
Absolutely.
Same with Eric Bloodaxe. Eric Bloodaxe, short price here. He's 12-1 for the Champion Bumper. Sort of play this race out through the Champion Bumper is the way I would have it, because they're quite short prices. I don't know what you can get on wide receiver just in case he does turn the form around. Huge price, I think. 25-1.
Yeah, so I've mentioned before I like doing block bets. So something that I've slapped on earlier today was I did it with Betfair. Appreciate It 9-1, Eric Bloodaxe 12-1, wide receiver 25-1, and I've just done them in 5 doubles with Aspire Tower to win the Spring Juvenile 4-1. So I've got 25 quid from the stake going on any of them. So for a 15 quid bet, it pays 250 minimum if one of these wins the bumper and Aspire Tower wins the Triumph. So they're the ones that, even if you fancy a couple of them, like you're saying, anti-post wise, you're probably better to get stuck into them. And if you do it with Sky Bet as well, you get nominal no bet, didn't you? So if they flop here and they don't go. Good point, mate. We're going to quickly, before we move on to Sunday...
I'll be 2 seconds, guys. I just need to grab my charger.
Yeah, no worries.
Go on, Steve.
I'll just quickly go back to the handicaps, which are the races that we've got to pad out the Colossus bet, so the win bet and the place bet. The handicap chase, Stephen does like in here the same two as I liked, Eclair de Parfait and Paloma Blue. Paloma Blue was stripped much better for the race that it had the last day. Ground win against him, I think. I do like Ted Walsh's Bazio, £1 out the handicap, but it looked like it was ridden the last day to be winning sort of maybe next time out or the time after. Got up a few pounds of it, but I quite like him. And Snugsborough Hall as well is just a sneaky little one. I don't know if he won this race last year, something like that, but they've given him a handicap spin since. He's up loads of weight since, but the money's starting to come in for him, so he's a bit interesting. But for our placey bet, for our win bet, we've got Eclair de Parfait, Paloma Blue, and Bazio. Daryl, is there anything away from them you like?
Not really, to be honest with you. It's quite competitive, though, for the grade. I can see why Paloma Blue's favourite. It doesn't really appeal to me that much, to be honest with you. Back down to 2 miles, I thought that he improved sort of over a bit further. Yeah. Dropped back and tripped, wouldn't be to my liking. I suppose if you was to force my hand, I'd probably have a small bet on Debussy. I know he's a bit of a rogue, but I think his run at Ascot behind Grenadine is going to work out well. I think tomorrow that horse is going to go and win the Scottish Champion Chase. They finished well clear of the remainder. I just think on a going day, I think you could have a bit more to offer off this sort of mark.
Yeah,
133. But I'm not. To be honest, I'd rather eat a handful of baby sick than look at this.
Well, but in saying all of that, you'd quite, or not that it matters because Notebook will have already won the Arca by this point, but it's a nice form boost for him. And before, because he still is. He looked like a nice type. I don't really scream that his mark looks like it's too lenient, but he is definitely one of them that you could see ended up winning a handicap like this, like a Plutard did last season at the Close Brothers.
Yeah.
Looks like he's better than a handicapper, doesn't he?
I know this is worth a lot of money, this race. It's just, I just try, literally at the point of like February, I try and steer clear from these massive handicap chases because you just don't know. There's too much uncertainty about what's going on, to be honest with you. So I just try and steer clear. Yeah, I do like Eclair de Beaufort. I actually backed him for the Arkle at the beginning of the season. So, you know, I do like him. But there's lots to like about a lot of the runners in here. Hence,
it's a trappy race, isn't it? And that's why, with the Colossus bet that we've done in there, they do offer consolations as well. So if we did get bummed out in that leg, we do all right in the other ones. They'll pay quite nicely. I've done quite well on the dogs recently with consolation. I had a second the other night, Daryl. They do win 8 on the dogs, so you've got to pick 8 winners, not just the 6 on the horses. I had the second in the first leg by half a length, and then the next 7 winners. So the consolation paid like a 10-1 winner, but if it had have won, it would have been like a good few £1,000s. So I'm knocking on the door. It will come soon. I reckon we've got a bit of a chance tomorrow. But the final leg would be going on to the handicap hurdle, Ladbrokes hurdle. There's no way in the world that Daryl, you're going to be against the horse that I'm going to put up. But there's a few in there that have probably got bits of chances that look all right. And there's a few of them that I can see why they're being nibbled a little bit. I like that as a horse. I think that's quite good, but ain't going to be winning this. You raised me up. I think he's quite good. 6-shooter form again. I reckon his mark might be a bit lenient, but I could be well off for that. The one that I backed him as soon as he was taken out of the novice hurdle races. Is unaccepted. He was 8-1 when he got to the 5-day stage. Yeah. He's rated 137, and I know obviously you need to have a bit up your sleeve to win these sort of handicaps, but people were talking about him as a Supreme horse, myself included, and I'm not saying he would win a Supreme, but I think he'd win this, and I think he deserved to be as short as it. It's a massive field, it's a massive handicap, all those bits and pieces, but I couldn't believe he was 8-1 earlier in the week when it looked like he was definitely coming here. I wouldn't want to be getting stuck into this price, but I think he'll win it. Do you like him, Daryl?
Yeah, I do like him. I think there's a plausible excuse for his defeat by easy work with the with the heavy ground and the step up and trip, drop back to 2 miles, 2 stars. Given, he was so impressive at Fairyhouse. It was ridiculous, ridiculously good. I think it's madness that he's off a mark of 137, but he's got to go and prove it now, because now's the time he does need to turn into a decent horse. Otherwise, it's just going to be one good performance and that's it. We never see that side of him again. That's the only risk you're taking in this big field. But as handicapped horses go, unaccepted could be ridiculously well handicapped.
That's it. And Stephen, we're saying we've gone through the handicap chase about Eclair de Beaufort. We've got a bit of cover in there, but could be a bit of a trappy leg. But I'm really confident on unaccepted. I think he'll be there or thereabouts. Like Daryl says, this is the turning point. He's got to go and prove it. But you make a good case as well for another one in here that you quite like, a bigger price, which was
Embittered for Joseph O'Brien. Entered into the handicap company for the first time. He's a really high-class bumper horse. He won well on his hurdles debut when he beat Blackbow. I know Blackbow hasn't gone on since his bumper form, but he was far from disgraced in 2 Grade 1 events on his last couple of starts. The latest of those was coming over course and distance. This race is much easier despite it being a bigger field, and his opening mark does look quite fair. It's got a nice weight of 11-1. Claimer takes off £7, and I think he's got outstanding each way claims.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. My sort of write up on him, definitely the back form of the bumpers. It's there for everyone to see, and he was just almost too bad to be true the last day. But it could turn out that was true. The only thing I have a slight reservation with him is it was first time hood and tongue tie when he won his bumper. It was first time hood without the tongue tie when he won his hurdle race. They took the hood off the last day, and that was probably his worst performance. And the hood's been left off here. So I worry with him maybe that they're just looking to maybe get his mark done a little bit more and then try and exploit him. But all of that said, he's too big at 20-1 because unless it really is desperately, really needs the headgear, he does look quite a big price. But that's the 2 handicaps for the Saturday. We've binned all of that stuff off. I'm going to stop the recording now so we can do a day 1 video, and then I'll do a second one for day 2. So I'll be back in a sec.